Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. Our episodes air every week, and we have a various amount of topics and people that we interview. Today is going to be on one of my favorite topics, which is on anger management. And the woman that I'm interviewing today is somebody that I met three years ago, and she was such a blessing in my life. Because she helped me to realize some things that I needed to face and process when it came to my divorce with my ex-husband. Anyway, she's just an angel, and I totally fell in love with her, and we've been friends ever since. And so anyway, when I grew up, I grew up in a family that had anger as its most acceptable emotion. If it wasn't anger, it was people in icy depressions and isolating. And to me, I feel like that's just anger turned inward anyway. Everybody would stuff their feelings. Nobody would have tools to process. Communication was at a standstill. And you knew that people had an emotion when they were trying to either stuff their face with food or they were so uncomfortable they were drinking or smoking or doing drugs or whatever. And it was such a hard way to live. I grew up pretty afraid and feeling like I had to survive. And so for a long time, a big part of my personality was the survivor. And, anger was something that made me feel strong. It made me feel like I had energy. It made me feel like I could somehow overpower. My parents were to me very intense, very big powers greater than me. And I felt like just like that game where you put one hand over another hand over another hand, I just felt like if I could just be a little bit more, if my voice could just be a little bit louder, if I could just have a little bit more energy, if I can control the situation just a little bit better, then I'll be okay. And there's so much toxic energy in holding on to anger and resentments, the body, the tension, the issues with my spine that got worse because of that, knots that I would have in my shoulder, digestion issues, I would have energy issues, I would wipe myself out and be exhausted a lot. I felt separate from people. I felt like I couldn't have real relationships because I could never really truly trust anyone. I never felt safe, because I was running on these ideas of what I thought I needed to have happen in my life for me to feel safe. And so, if you have anger issues and you've just started to delve into it, or maybe you've been working on it for a while, you know that it goes deeper and deeper. And if anything, that's where the onion peels more and more and you find out more. But I heard it once that, and it resonates so deeply with me that it became part of the healing narrative of what I was doing, and it was that anger is really just fear, period, and that rage is terror, and that resentment is this idea that is hopelessness. It's this idea that somebody else has my power, that somebody else could do something to me. It's the epitome of really being a victim, and the anger that's involved in that level of not feeling safe because somebody literally has my good, I believe in my mind, is really the underlying current of a lot of people trying to heal from addiction and PTSD. And so, I was in a relationship I was married for a long time. I knew my ex, we were best friends and business partners for years before we got together, and we both will admit that we got together for maybe a false sense of safety or security or, loneliness or something, but, we weren't romantically matched up, and we were better off just being best friends and business partners, but we wanted it all, and so we did that. And then we tried very codependently to make it work for many, many years. And when it didn't work, finally, when it got to the end, we just had to pull the plug. It just wasn't it. Neither of us really felt safe, even though we were very loving towards each other. in the actual like decision to divorce and make that split, because of certain things that had happened with a relationship that he had already started with someone else, and ideas of like how we were going to like dissolve and split businesses and whatever like that. I had this idea that more than ever before that I had this overwhelming responsibility, and I had lost my partner, and I was all alone, and it was just me and God, and I just was like, okay, this is what I have to do, and I was grateful that I had what I had to do it with, but then trying to date, had a relationship, should not have had that relationship. That person was not healthy for me to be with, and I was not healthy to be with anybody, and I ended up in a relationship that brought up some anger and some fear, and I codependently tried to make that work too. Like I didn't even know what I was doing. And through a chain of events, I met Shawnnyce. Shawnnyce is somebody who, it's so interesting how God works. She's also a business owner. Yep. She's also she was a single business owner. When she met me, we were both single business owners. Yep. With a tremendous amount of responsibility, had partners.
Yeah.
had that not go the way we wanted it to ultimately. Yep. And found ourselves, stepping up, wanting to do it, and for her, here she was. She owns a business that helps people with anger issues and domestic violence and now substance abuse, etc. And so, how interesting, how interesting. I remember when I met you too, and I was talking to you, and you were. You sat with me and you were telling me the things from anger management, and you're like, but you know this stuff already, and I'm like, dude, if I knew this stuff, would I feel this way? Would I have what's happening in my life happen? And you're like, well, and she did the most incredible thing, and I feel like it was completely God inspired. She turned around, she took a whiteboard, and she wrote a line down the middle, and then she wrote Albert, my ex-husband, on the left. And she went and she wrote, tell me what it is that you can't live without him to help you do in this business, in this life. Tell me. Let's just write it down. What is it that you can't do, Lisa? And I was just like, all right, here we go. And so as I was writing it, because it wasn't just that, she works, she has this facility that help people go through the system. They're court ordered to go through the system, and some of them may listen and get something out of it, and some of them are just there to just knock it off, check it off their list. And this wasn't necessarily, she's licensed as a therapist, but she wasn't looking to be a therapist. But here she was taking her time and doing it, and man, I have to tell you, what a pivotal moment to have a woman who had, split from a partner, had her own business, talk to me woman to woman, who had also had stuff happen in her childhood, and I felt no judgment for anything, and which is just amazing, because I'm used to having conversations where I don't feel judgment and I can process some stuff out with people in recovery. To meet somebody who isn't in my recovery circles, to be such a valuable, important part of my journey, and we just became friends since.
It was crazy how that happened.
Yeah.
And how somebody who also struggles with anger.
Yeah.
Has anger.
But that's how it works, though. That's how come we're attracted to what we're attracted to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The name of her place is Park
at Sankofa.
Park.
Yes.
And how did you come up with that name?
Well, it stands for Perpetual Accountability, Responsibility, Change. Because in reality, we alone are responsible for all of these things, for anything that happens.
Right.
And so that's a big part of what we do there. You have to own your own responsibility.
And doesn't that also, because you're constantly having to teach, that it's like right in your face that you have to
All
do
the
it
time.
too?
All the time.
Isn't it interesting where we are in our lives? It's exactly what we need, even though this is what we're doing to help other people.
It's a huge part of it. So I try to walk in my own path of all the things that I teach. So yeah, it's a difficult balance, but I love it.
Right. It does keep us accountable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you have a master's in marriage and family therapy.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
and I'm working on my doctorate. Well, I was, but yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
You're working on your doctorate, and your agency has been there for almost 5 years.
Yes, 5 years.
That's amazing. And so when people get in trouble for, I guess, for domestic violence or anything where, what else would it be that somebody would come to you through?
There's a lot of different things. So domestic violence, of course, if they're going to court, and those are the things that they're charged with. And anger management is a part of that, but it's not. It's hard to explain. We had to come up with our own thing, and I think it's more of a program that's geared towards people who are just struggling with everyday life, with stressors. I had a class that I just taught about stress and how stress affects everything that we do, and our anger ends up turning into those things. When we're mad about something and then everything is frustrating from that point forward, it's ridiculous. And so, we get people to come in we have voluntary people too who, it's not court ordered. They're just like, man, my wife is telling me I need to do, or my husband is saying, here's what I need. And sometimes we're just upset. But anger's normal.
Right.
That's the thing. Anger's normal. Rage is not.
Right.
And so that's what
right. I think that was the whole point for me. Mm-hmm. Are you making a noise?
Oh, I am. I'm sorry. That's
it's going to come in the
I'm
recorder.
sorry.
It's okay. Don't make me angry. No. So I that's what I had to learn to do, because I grew up in an environment where I suffered by feelings. And so my idea, when I thought of feelings, I thought of only big feelings, because everything was always like resist it until it exploded. So I would either be suicidally depressed or homicidally angry. And so when I would think of that too, when people think, well, I'm not angry, because they picture anger like holes punched in walls.
Right.
Right?
But it's not. It can be so simple.
It could be so simple. Yeah. Just the fact that you're rethinking the same thing over and over again, you have like a little charge around it, is anger. If you feel like you're a victim of something that you think happened to you, and you feel like a victim, it's anger.
Yeah.
That's what's so amazingly powerful about learning to take responsibility. It's if you tell somebody who's really, really angry that that's what they need to do.
Oh, they have problems with that. Oh,
No.
Definitely accepting that.
Because there's so much investment in the moment to not being the one responsible.
Right.
And also because we have so much judgment that we're now projecting onto the other person that we're victimized by. If somebody was to suggest that I should take responsibility for that, well, that means that I should take all of the judgment, and now it goes on me.
It's hard to explain, and it's hard for people to come by, but a lot of it is what happens in our childhood that we don't even recognize, that we don't realize. That that's anger that we're carrying. I didn't know how mad I was at my parents until like last week. Sometimes things happen and you can't explain it. Right.
You were reading or watching a Stephen?
Yeah, I was reading a Stephen King book, and the beginning of it's actually The Stand, which everybody gets sick of. Anyway. But he was having a problem. One of the characters had a problem with his mother saying something to him, and it triggered him. And he was back in this place. And while I'm reading it, I'm in tears. And I'm like, I don't understand why I'm in tears. And I had to think like I was in a dark place because of something that happened when I was 12, and I didn't even realize it. I don't know if I should say what it was, but it was this huge thing. My parents, I smoked.
Okay.
So I was smoking cigarettes. And I just stole the cigarette. My dad smoked cigarettes. And I thought, oh, it's so cool because he smokes. So I'm going to smoke too. So we're having this whole game night, and they find the cigarettes in my purse. These other kids are playing, and purse fell over, and then I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Now I'm in trouble.
Right.
So they had time to think about it because we still had company. So then when everyone left, the part that I remember, I'm sitting in this chair in the middle of the living room. I can't even picture anything else, just this chair in the middle of the living room. And my mother told me, here, we'll smoke this cigarette. Every time I inhaled on a cigarette, she slapped the shit out of me. And I don't mean just a little bit. I mean that I don't know how people didn't say anything about the bruises that I had all over my face. So still in school, all these things are happening, and it's 20 drags at least to finish the cigarette. And so at one point, I got hit so hard I fell out of the chair. Like, I didn't realize that a lot of the things that happened to me, a lot of the anger that I carry when someone approaches me or when they said something to me that I felt was out of line, goes back to that. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't thought about it I'm in my 50s now, so I hadn't thought about it in decades. Yeah. And then when it hit me, I was just like, whoa, I'm in that place, and that's why. Yeah. So, hey, but I process it. I believe in the path of least resistance.
Did you smoke after that?
I did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because that could go either way. Did you smoke with, like, fuck you?
Yeah, exactly. Because that was one of the things, like, after all of that, after I got hit all those times, then I still got spanked by my father, which no one ever got spanked by my father, because his was reserved for special, horrible things. So in addition to all of that, and I'm like, whoa, okay, so all of those things happened to me for what? So I kept smoking. And then the thing that made me stop smoking when I was 25, anyway, my daughter was in kindergarten, and they had this whole non-smoking day. So on Thursdays, I'd have to hide out in my closet or smoke like a crackhead out on like, what the hell? And she told me, do you want secondhand smoke? Kills, you're going to try to kill. I just threw the whole pack out the window, like, okay, fine, fuck it, I'm done. So that's what made me quit, not my parents.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How interesting.
And all the rest of us smoked. Everybody else smoked. My sister smoked, my brother smoked, and they never said a word to anybody. And they all started smoking young.
Interesting.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that could have gone either way. Either you're going to be like, oh, really?
Right.
Fine.
Right.
Then I'll really show you smoking.
Yeah.
Or it could be like, wow, I can't even be around smoke. I'll freak out if I'm around smoke.
Nothing like that. The opposite effects.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, you went to school to become a therapist initially, and like when you do that, it's usually because, we have a desire to understand that which we could not understand when we are children and things are happening that are very overwhelming, and we don't have tools, and we want tools, and we want to understand that. But how did you end up creating, like, what made you go from being a therapist to creating an anger management and domestic violence program?
I just figured that if I can stop some of the things from happening, like if my parents had better tools, if they had any idea how to parent in a way that they should have, then none of these things would have happened. Yeah. So I thought that maybe if I can do something about that, if I can show somebody, like, there's other ways out there. I know you're upset, these are the things that happen, but really is taking it out on somebody else going to help you. Mm-hmm. So if I can change that part of it, then maybe there won't be victims. Right. If we can teach other people, the offenders, better behaviors. That's what I was thinking.
I was thinking about one of the things I had to learn, and that was that when I knew that I had anger issues, and I felt like I needed to control the anger. Just trying to control the anger made it worse. Yeah. Because I can't get angry. I can't get angry. Like, don't let them see that you're angry. It's like, don't show your ass.
Then it's a whole other level.
Then it becomes worse because, and then it's worse because I'm stuffing my feelings for an entirely different reason. I'm not wanting to get angry, and then it comes out, and now I have shame about the anger, and then fear. What will people think, or did I hurt somebody, or could I hurt somebody? And I had so much anger. I had the kind of anger you feel in your body, like the Hulk.
Oh yeah.
When your muscles start to go, are we needed? Because if we're needed, we're ready for this. Yeah. And like, you're like Hulk mad. Yeah. And oh my God.
Ours comes from a different level, though. Well, we have different, not that it comes from a different level, it just gets expressed in different ways. Yeah. So my worry, one of my biggest worries, because I was a single parent too, is being that angry black woman. Because that happens. Right. So people automatically assume, oh, here she comes and now she's mad. Well, the problem is that, these little things are setting me off, and then I have to think, oh shit, okay, I don't want to be that angry woman. I was in Walmart one time and had this interaction with this lady over a vacuum cleaner, and I was like, what the fuck? And so I have to think to myself, though, then why all these things you're attracting all of this stuff to you? And I didn't realize until after I started Park and after I started reading all these things that really I was attracting all that stuff to me. I was walking around angry, so everything that was angry was sticking to me like a magnet. Like, here it all comes, be ready to catch all this stuff. And now that I'm not angry, people approach me in the store for different things. Yeah. So that part's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love your humility, because I'm the same way. I'm definitely a work in progress. I keep learning. I love learning. Yeah. I love hacking this whole thing and finding out, what's really going on. What are the causing conditions of this? So you started Park because somebody had asked you to help them.
Oh yeah. So when I was working on my master's degree, as I was going through it, I did part of my internship at a domestic violence agency. And so someone asked me to write an application. And back then, this was 2010. So it was different. Like there was no application. You had to come up with it yourself. So you had these different things and you had to come up with the revised statutes and the reasons that you would have it this way. And after 110 pages, we did not become partners. And I'll just leave it at that. And then, fast forward a decade, and I was like, I could have just done that myself. Yeah. I happened to be looking at something else, and then I looked at this on a flash drive, and I was like, what in the hell? I'm just going to do it. Yeah. So here I am.
Yeah. But you did have a partner, right?
I did have a partner at the beginning. But
how did you have a partner?
How did I have one? Okay, so when I started this, I was between companies. Mm-hmm. I've owned businesses since 2011, basically.
Well, by yourself or with partners?
The first one by myself, then I took on a partner and said I would never do it again. And then I started this other thing because I was doing consulting, and there was 3 women who were involved with it. And, I always want to be the one where I'm like, okay, so we're going to be sisters, and this is going to be great, and this is how it's going to go. Right. And I thought that we had the same visions, and we did not. One of us was an alcoholic. Okay. And then one of us was young and just, she had family, she had different things, and she had different ideas on what the world was supposed to be. So I was the one working and running everything. And then I was like, I'm not doing this shit again, because that's what happened with my last company. Right. So we had put into the agreement that I had created, that there was a clause. So if they wanted to, if either one of us wanted to walk away, because the other one at this point was already gone, then we could. And I called her for a meeting. We were supposed to have a meeting. Actually, she had called the meeting. Right. It was a Friday at 11:30. I'm sitting in the office, and I see her go by the window. And I'm thinking, and we're supposed to be meeting right now. Like, this doesn't mean anything at all to you. So she called me that weekend. Okay, we're going to have a meeting. And on a Monday, she was like, I think you can handle it by yourself. I said, you're damn skippy, because this is it. I'm finished. So that's why I don't have partners. And there it is there. So
I think it's important to know yourself. I always believed that I needed to have a partner, and I always believed that I needed to live with somebody too. I did have a period of time where I lived alone, and I conveniently forgot that in my belief system, in my narrative. And then, so after my divorce, I lived with somebody right away who needed financially even to live with me, and that's what brought up that anger thing that happened, that I felt like we had decided that if it doesn't work out with him living with me, we wrote it down. We were really cute. We got it notarized, and we said we agree. And we had a clause. Mm-hmm. We agree that if this doesn't work out, that he would move out because it was my place, right? And I thought, and this is all like he moved in partly because I thought it was easier financially if I had somebody living with me too, and we split the bills and stuff like that. But when it wasn't good and he wouldn't leave, and I did not feel safe in my own house, and it triggered some yummy little PTSD about that same feeling.
Right.
When that happened, I ended up really not okay. And and the police had to get involved and like get him out of my house, and they got him out of my house. That was definitely successful, but not without struggle, not without issues.
Right.
And that's when I met you, and I'm so grateful for that. What you said something to me, I'll never forget it. You said, and because it came from you, it held such depth and weight. You said, you do not need a partner.
Because you don't.
But I believed I did.
That's the problem. The problem is you feel like everybody says you need somebody else.
Yeah.
Everybody says you can't step out and do this on your own.
Right.
I mean, what's going to happen if
Right.
you stumble? Don't you need somebody to pick you
Right.
up? But what happens when you bring on a partner is that if you struggle, if you stumble, you're pulling their weight too.
Oh my God,
that's
so true.
ridiculous.
It's so true. It's so
yeah.
true. I wasn't even, like, that's what you were helping
You
me
don't
see
need it.
in this list that you were making, is how much of it I was relying on somebody who wasn't really even, he was doing things well and he was doing things his way.
Right.
But they weren't the way that I would need for me to feel like we were partners in
Right.
it. You know what I mean? And so I'll leave it at that. But the idea that I needed a partner, and I do believe that no man is an island, and I do believe that we all need help and people like that partner up with us and things and come to us and whatever like that. But to have an official partner, and honestly, the reason why is because I had epilepsy. I mean, I have epilepsy,
Yeah.
and it could be really bad, and so like I just had this story in my mind that I needed a partner to be totally in it with me, so that if something should happen, that this person could step up. But like you said, part of the reason I was having seizures was the stress of trying to get said person.
Yeah. The Bible says we're supposed to be equally yoked. And I don't think that only applies for marriage.
Right.
I think that applies in everything you do. So
Yeah.
even when you're, like when I was doing my master's degree and we have these groups and we have these things and we had to, and you're the only one doing the work, it ends up weighing on you. And that's not fair. So that's not an equally yoked kind of thing. And I feel like if you can't find somebody who's 100% in and as passionate as you are about the business, you're
better off doing it alone.
Anyway. Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Absolutely.
There's something about a woman who is a single proprietor who is telling me this, who's and honestly, it's not just that you said it. I truly believe that God put you in my life, because when you said it, I felt my intuition go, yes.
Yeah.
And so it didn't just go into my ears. I didn't just see you say it, so whatever. I heard it like to my core. And I was just like, all right, well, maybe it's the story that I can't do it that's really causing all this fear and anger, and frustration. And so in the process of working out that anger, because I had worked out so much anger. I had healed so much.
Yeah.
And this divorce kicked up my anger snow and my snow globe. There are moments where I swear you wouldn't think I had any recovery whatsoever, because I was not okay. In fact, the day that I was trying to get that person out of my house, the person who was living with me out of my house, I felt that whole 24 hours, I felt like I was back being that survivor in New York, that girl that had to I felt like her again. Yeah. And it was so, like, if you know anything about PTSD, like it acts like it's happening now the same way.
In that instant. So
what a blessing. What a blessing. I do believe that everybody comes into our life for a reason. I believe you partnered with me in that.
Absolutely.
I believe that we became friends partly because of how much we are so much alike, and we have like that special juju with each other. But and we want to do stuff at the meeting space. We want to have anger management workshops and stuff like that. But many times the people that get assigned to your business get assigned to mine,
Yes.
they come through with the court cards
Yeah.
and they have to go to X amount of meetings and they have to, and we're the ones who tell them this is what you have to do and these are the sheets and stuff like that. And they go to anger management and domestic violence classes because they need to show the courts that this is what they're doing to hopefully rehabilitate so that they don't end up escalating
and getting back into more trouble.
and sometimes it's the courts that really, really want them to, if there's a chance that they might believe that this person could possibly learn something, to give them to you, to give them to the meetings, to say, go through this process. But if they go and they don't listen, or they don't even show up, or they don't go to the meetings, it's just, or they do go to the meetings, but it's just like, then they're likely to keep doing what their mental programming has them do.
And
but people have wanted that.
Though. I try to tell everybody, keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Even if you know all of these things, even if everything I go over, just like I said with you, you know this stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes we need a refresher.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need somebody to say, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Why are you mad? Why is that coming out in this way? So sometimes it's just a refresher. It's just that simple.
I feel like just because somebody knows something, because they've heard it before or read it before or applied it somewhere else, it's like as if just because you know it, it's as if you're trying to rely on medicine you took for an illness that you had years ago, and so somehow you should be immune to ever having this illness again because you took medicine already a long time ago. It's like I needed exactly this relationship with you to help me because I on the one hand really, really wanted to just be on my own. I felt relief in the splitting of the business and everything. I felt relief. I felt like, the recovery store in the meeting space was my baby.
Right.
And the other business was something that we created together, more so for what we mutually, equally were doing.
Right.
But the recovery store in the meeting space, that's something I wanted to do, the recovery store especially. 17 years ago, when I first moved to Las Vegas, I wanted to start a store called Awakening. So this was, he even said this in the divorce. He said, I'll take this other company, which made a lot more money or whatever, but it happened. And then, but the meeting space, the recovery store was like, and then COVID, all the COVID stuff that happened, it was like, wow, so there's so much like holding on, using my own savings, keeping it going, being my only person, no net, but no net that I was aware of, but a net. There were people, community. There were people I would meet, like you. There was a network of people in this net that I wasn't even really fully aware of, and that's part of trusting the process and trusting God for me is recognizing that even if I don't necessarily know who's in my network from my net, right? This would be a good episode. Like, what's your net?
Right.
But it made me realize that that all the anger that I was having was because I kept having this idea in my mind: I can't do this. 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 This is what Albert did. Albert did this part of the business. He did the tech stuff with this. Blah blah blah. I can't. And when I had the conversation with you, it opened my mind.
It's like textbook imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Of course you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, of course we can do it.
Yeah.
But we don't believe that.
Yeah. I've had so many people, women especially, come to me and they want to pick my brain. They want to start their own business. They want to do a thing. And the only thing I caution them about is having this like fantasy about how easy it's going to be.
Yeah.
And just go,
not as easy as it appears.
So you know what it's like to have a newborn? And they go, yeah. And I'm like, well, so you don't get sleep. You have to devote your whole life to this little being.
Right.
Well, so your company is going to be that.
Yeah.
It's going to be your life. It's going to be a lot of your life.
Absolutely hard. And I go through weeks where I'm just like, okay, well, I believe in a higher power. If you say it's going to work, then here it's going to work. Because I've had people walk up and tell me, like I was on a trail one day. I must tell this story. I was on a trail. I call it the Trail of Good and Evil. It was back behind my house in Henderson. And I was walking, and I'm going out. It goes all the way into Boulder City, actually. It leads into Boulder City. So I'm walking. I don't know if I told you this story. And this lady she passes me. So there's trail etiquette. Okay, so I'm walking this way. She's coming past me.
Trail
and
etiquette.
There's etiquette. So I'm like, oh, she has something in her hand because I was walking and she was running. So she went around me. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of different. Looked like a Walkman, but it wasn't anyways. Playing religious music. And I'm like, that's different. She gets down like a football field where I can't see her anymore. And she turns around, doubles back. And I'm like, okay, so maybe she dropped something. Maybe she left something, but why is she coming back?
Oh,
She came back and said to me, yeah, what's your name? My name is, I think her name was Karen. I'm Karen, what's your name? And I'm like, I'm Shawnnyce. What? And she was like, oh, God told me to come back here and talk to you. And I was like, to me? And she was like, yeah, it's come and tell you that everything you're doing is going to work. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I'm thinking, the hell? Like in front of what? Right now everything's up in the air. What do you mean? And she was like, no, I'm telling you, prosperous. You're going to make money. I said, I know what prosperous means. I just don't understand why you're telling me this.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't either. But I had to come back and tell you. And then she went on her way and I went on my way because we were going the same way. She took off running again. Anyway. So I had to, sometimes I just have to rely on those things like faith. Okay, you said it's going to work. One foot in front of the other. I'm still doing it. Even though it seems like I'm underwater and it's dark and I don't understand what's happening. But I'm just going to keep doing what I do. And it works. Like and I can't explain that to people. You can't tell people because everybody sees you in business and everything is so great and this is wonderful and look at you, you're so successful, you're doing it. You don't understand.
Yeah.
You don't know those days when I wake up like, I don't know how the hell how this is going to happen. And then it does. And I'm just like, okay, all right. So
I'm just showing up.
Yeah, I'm a vessel.
There are these recovery cards that I should recreate one day that my mom had when I was a kid. It was a deck of cards with all these cool slogans and everything. And on it, there was one card and had a picture of, on one side of it, you saw a swan and just the water under it, and you just see it gliding across the water, right? And then you flip the card, and you see the water, and you see the feet kicking like crazy underneath.
Yeah, because
so I think of that.
Struggle.
I think of that. Like I think of like how often like we can easily look at somebody's life and what they're doing and think, wow, look at that. They're lucky. Like that's amazing. It's like
right.
There's a total difference between lucky and blessed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, blessed is you're kicking like crazy underneath, and you're doing what you feel
water.
like you need to do, and you're taking leap after leap of faith, and you're realizing that wow, we get guided and things provided, and it's amazing. What a journey. Luck is you're just walking along and a business that's successful falls right in your lap.
Right.
Thank
if
you.
Only. That would be awesome. Not how life works.
No, I mean, if it fell on my lap, I wouldn't know what to do with it.
Right. You would think it was too easy.
Yeah.
Like, something's wrong here because it's going way too easy.
Yeah, I don't know. I like easy. Easy's good too. Yeah, sometimes that. But yeah, at this point, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go to commercial. Please remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them and don't represent any 12-step program or are meant to replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. We'll see you in a bit. Thank you. The meeting space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The recovery store in the center of our facility
provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the recovery store and the meeting space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal.
Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. Before the break, we were talking about a whole bunch of things, and but what we really want to talk about now is when somebody does get into trouble. Usually it doesn't even have to involve alcohol, but oftentimes it involves alcohol or drugs. But if not that, it could also just involve, some dysfunctional programming that they've been running on, and so their relationships are going to be tumultuous, or maybe they got in trouble at a job, or DUIs. Do you get anybody for that?
We do get DUIs too.
Okay. So tell me about the process, like that. How do you get clients?
Well, usually our clients are sent to us by the court. So we get referrals, justice court, actually from all the courts in the state right now. And they come into us, they meet with me. I'm the one person who does the intakes. Because I want to meet everybody.
Okay.
So that's the way that I can get in touch with each person who comes through, and I can always share the same things with them. So when they come in to do the intake with me, we just usually sit for 10-15 minutes. They have a whole packet that they fill out, and then I sit and talk to them and explain things to them, how to take timeouts, how those kind of things fix everything. I talk to them about the responsibility. We talk about what happens, and I ask them to tell their story, because normally you get a police report and it just tells the police officer's story or the witness or the victim or whatever happened. But I want to know what happened to bring you here.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about it. What actually happened? And usually it's something simple.
So when they tell their story, do you listen for whether or not they are talking about everybody but themselves?
Absolutely.
Or if they have any humility in it? I
listen to see if it's just victim blaming, if it's somebody who's just saying, well, this is everybody else's fault and not mine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that. But some
you can without mentioning names.
Some people are entitled, and they feel like none of these things apply to them. And oh my God, this is for everybody else. And the lawyers are out there talking to these career criminals. Like no one else could be in here for the first time like you. Anyway, so I talk to everybody, and I listen for those kind of things. And if I get that where I'm asking, is there any trouble with alcohol? Well, does she have a problem? No, this is about you. So let's see what the problems with you are. And I like to be able to bring them around to thinking that this is about you. It's not about anybody else. You're here. You accepted this plea. This is why you're here. So let's talk about it. And then, as they go through the classes, I tell them these are the things that they're going to talk about every week. Self-control and timeout. Because those are things that you can control. So tell everybody when you leave here, you're going to need to take timeouts. They can take timeouts. You need to take timeouts. And that you have to control yourself. You can't control anybody else. So no matter what brought you here, no matter what things, no matter who said, no matter what happened, you reacted to it. And so this is where you are. And it's a funny story, but we're at a go-kart thing for my my granddaughter's birthday. And my sister ordered a burger. She bring out the burger, and she's like, well, it doesn't have this on it, doesn't have that on it. So this manager comes out, and he's like, do you know where you are? Let me just start with where you are. Do you want a go-kart ride? Because we do go-karts here. And he's like, you got to understand, this is not a gourmet restaurant.
Yeah.
You need to know where you are. And I was cracking up. And the whole time I was thinking, oh my God, I love him.
Yes.
Do you know where you are?
Right.
So that's what I tell people.
I love that.
You have to understand where you are. This is not about, it's not a group counseling. It's not a couples counseling. It's you.
Right.
And so we have to figure out what's going on with you. You know where you are. You know where you walked into.
Right.
So it's not
an accident
else
that you went to jail.
It's not an accident. Something that just happened to you. You accepted a plea, and this is where you are. So I like to bring them
even
back
if you don't believe that all the parts of it are your fault, somehow somehow, and this is what we talk about in recovery, somehow you put yourself in a position
Right.
to get hurt. Somehow a
You're
part of you
responsible.
made decisions and acted in a way based on stuff that was going on
Yeah.
with you that you felt like you needed to do that were going to create more
Right.
havoc.
Right.
Somehow, you know, you ended up getting pulled over. Somehow you ended up getting arrested. Somehow this happened. And you could tell yourself that all of it's a big accident and it's a big
conspiracy.
Conspiracy, everybody's out to get you. But
Yeah.
even that thought is
Yeah.
something you might want to one day look at.
Yeah.
That, you know, they say in recovery, I love this, you know, if all these things are happening, please know you're the common denominator.
Hello.
Hello.
That part.
Like if one person is doing something in your life and nobody else, maybe it's them. But if you have a pattern of people,
Right.
then maybe it's you. Like maybe something's going on with you. And if you're finding yourself sitting with you
Right. Across the table from me.
to get out of more trouble,
Yeah.
then maybe right then,
I had someone tell me, I'm 58 years old. I've never had any contact with the police. My FICA score, I said, ma'am, none of that matters. At some point, you had contact with the police. No, I didn't. You did, though. My husband's police. You had contact with the police or you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, she was like, okay, you're right. So this is what happened. I'm like, just tell me. So those kind of things, people live in this delusion where it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else. And there's someone who said, these people walk across the street looking for trouble.
Yeah.
They're not the ones who avoid
Right.
it. They're the
Right.
ones who go in head
Right.
first. Like,
Right.
here I go, I'm going to find you.
Right.
And that's the issue. You got to understand.
I think that's the epitome of what drives anger, is this idea that it's them. It's them. It's them. And I have a friend who has passed away years ago, but I just spoke at a place where a sign was on the wall and it goes, "It's not them." And I love that.
Yeah.
And he had given me, I used to teach these meditation meetings and classes on learning to listen to your intuition at my house. And he would bring these laminated things for me that said, "It's not them." And I would put them on the wall. And people would go, "Oh, I want one." And I'd give it. And he would give them, because it's what an amazing, powerful statement. You know, to remind ourselves whenever we are irritated and angry or anything to go, wait a second. It's not them.
Right.
So, what's going on with me?
Yeah. It's
So
in their reactions and all of those things. But, you know, once we get...
So what if they don't? What if they don't ever tell you what's really going on with them? What if you could tell them they're not going to get much out of this, right?
There are some people that I don't accept.
Oh,
for
interesting.
those reasons. You know, this is not for you. So there are 20 other agencies out here who offer these.
So why wouldn't you accept them?
There are some people who are going to fight, who are going to be combative, but the classes only last 90 minutes. If you want to suck up all of that time with arguing about whether this is your fault or not, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So I will tell them.
It becomes toxic for everyone else.
And sometimes they'll say, okay, you're right. And it'll turn completely around. And then there are other times when I just send them back to court and they go to somebody else.
Wow. Do they go to someone else or do they?
They don't have a choice.
I mean,
so
if you told court that they can't, they don't play well.
I tell them all the time. So if somebody comes in and I'm like, it's just like the lady who was so entitled, and I had to tell them, like, she's coming your way. May the odds be ever in your favor. I can't take her. I can't take her because I just can't. And they're like, oh, we know who you're talking about. Sorry about that. I'm like, I just can't. So good luck with the next one. And I've gotten people who have been sent to me because the last agency was like, I can't deal with this another day. So we have people like that. And sometimes the bottom line is they just end up in jail.
Yeah.
Because they're accepting alternative sentencing, but they're not using it.
Yeah.
So that part.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it's interesting because the idea of, you know, that woman saying that she's never gotten into trouble before. I think maybe you've never been caught before. You know, maybe, you know, you've had other symptoms of what's been going on.
What she said to me is, I even go to fucking church on Sunday. I said, that sounds real Christian of you. You never know with people. I'm just like, oh my God, that's not justification. I'm so convinced. But yeah. So I don't know. With some people, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So.
But don't you feel like on some level maybe seeds are planted a little bit or no?
there are some that even if you, okay, it's like throwing acorn on concrete. The seed's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to keep bouncing off that concrete. So no matter what I plant, with some people I just have to understand. Like, you really have to understand that there's nothing you can do. That was part of my journey, part of my growth. Like, realizing, like, I could keep fighting and I keep telling you that this is going to happen, but it's not. And so sometimes I just have to accept that. But for those who do come through, they almost always get something out of it. You know,
and honestly, I find the same thing with working with people too. Is that I really I know the value of I'm going to get what I put into it, and you know, talking to you, you're like, you know all this stuff already, and I'm like, hey, you know, like, seriously, like, I just didn't recognize myself.
Yeah.
I just had fear come up in such a way that experience, like, I was like, seriously, you know, like, what is that? I have a hunger to heal, and I won't work with somebody who doesn't have a hunger to heal, because well, first of all, I never thought of an acorn on concrete, but I do feel like I'm not really, I'm spending a lot of time, a lot of energy with somebody who's not receptive. I could be putting all that energy into somebody who is.
Right.
You know, and the more people that are wanting to heal, the more healed people there are.
Absolutely.
To help the people, you know, at each level of willingness. And everybody can be an inspiration then to other people. But so I could see that. So let's say, so now you have somebody who's maybe a little bit more willing. They're telling you a story that's talking about themselves more. It's refreshing to you, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and now in this process, now what's the step?
So after that, we assign them to classes. So whichever, usually goes by their schedule. But then there are some people that I know will go good and so well in some groups. And so I kind of put them where I think they'll benefit. And then I check on them. So I will, because I'm a supervisor too, so I'll sit in those classes and I kind of see what's going on. And we offer alumni classes too, so you go through everything, but sometimes that 26 weeks or that 13 weeks, you're not finished. And so once they're done with the program, we offer the ability for them to come back. And I have people who take alumni classes and are just regular, which is awesome for us.
Do they pay for the classes to come back?
No.
Oh,
Once they're finished, I feel like, you know, if you want to come back, you can come back. You've already done the hardest part. And
who pays you?
What do you mean?
Like when they get assigned.
Nobody pays me, so that's part of the problem. But no, we don't. We're not.
And our next episode will be on codependency.
That part.
But
we're not grant funded or any of that stuff. So it's just up to the clients to pay.
Oh, so the clients pay.
Mm-hmm,
so
clients pay.
It doesn't go through the court to pay you?
No, it goes through the courts where they say these are the things that you have to do. These are the requirements.
But it's for them to pay.
But it's for them to pay.
Okay.
And that's the other reason why I say that's their responsibility. No one's going to pay for this but you. And I also, one of the things that, let me just say this to everybody. So, one of the things that I say is that you need to pay for this as you go. Because we'll have people who, I'm going to pay it at the end of the course that I don't have to. Listen, if you're having trouble with coming up with $30 a week, you're definitely going to have trouble coming up with $1,000 at the end. So I say that all the time too, because we're all human.
Yeah.
So I work with people, but remember, like Judge Judy says, you ate the steak. You gotta pay for it.
Yeah.
So I talk to people about that too, and chipping away at a little bit of time. Did you just quote Judge Judy? Yes, because I love Judge Judy. So I use her in almost every conversation when I'm talking to people. Don't get in any kerfuffles. So, yeah, I do quote Judge Judy often.
So there are people who are getting assigned to you because of anger issues or domestic violence or something like that. Do you ever get scared of somebody, a potential client?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So when I first started this, yes, there was a kid who was really young, and anyway, there's issues where I have, and if those people, one part of my job, one of the things that I'm supposed to do in an intake is see if these people are too dangerous to have in group. And so I won't tell them they're too dangerous, but I will tell the court, like, we're going to have to discharge this one. I can't let them come in because I have to worry about everybody else too. And my girls, I have girls on staff.
Yeah.
And so I worry about them. Like, I can't have this person in it. No, he's not going to come in here and shoot. The entitled lady said she had a concealed weapons permit, and I was like, if you have your gun right now, I can have you arrested. You're going to have to leave because you're not supposed to have that anymore. So those kind of things. So yeah, there's times when I've been scared.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't stay. And I just have to walk through. Usually if I get angry people, I give them chocolate. I just kind of see where they are. Are you dangerous and your rage is so unchecked that you're dangerous? Or are you just upset and you're really having a bad day? Because I've had people where I've talked down, where they start, I'm not doing, and they're slamming stuff, and I'm like, sir, calm down. Or ma'am, it's okay.
Right.
It's all right. It's
amazing.
I have stuff playing, I have music playing, I have diffusers going. Have some chocolate. Eat some chocolate, you'll feel better. I understand it's frustrating because nobody wants to do this. Who wants to do this? I get it, but you're going to get something out of it. So calm down. Have some chocolate. You'll be better. And usually by the time they leave, they're like, okay, ma'am, you're right. So,
how interesting.
Yeah.
How interesting that you've learned to be like the anger whisperer. Like you can
to.
tell the difference as to whether or not the energy is something that's going to spiral out. Yeah. I too have had to deal with things at the meeting space where people will get into fights. I had one person mace another person inside one of the rooms once. I've had people like get angry at each other outside in the middle of the night after the last meeting, threatening each other.
Oh, wow.
One person punching someone. We've been broken into a couple of times, and so like at night when I'd walk through locking up everything at like really late at night, and like maybe I'm staying after because I need to do something there. Like there's a feeling like I know you think that you're tough, Lisa, but maybe you're not, and maybe you need. And then I've had people say, because I have a really really huge dog that you may or may not hear barks, but I've had people go, you should bring Bear. And I go, Bear would get scared. Bear would get scared.
Scare somebody else.
Yeah. So yes, I ended up having a BB gun and, whatever. But I do get that. But I've also had to talk people down. I've had to talk people who were threatening to kill me. Like people who are mentally ill who would come and take showers in the bathroom or very, very smelly, and they'd be sitting in the room and the meeting themselves would come and say, please remove this person because he's being, he's telling us we're doing AA wrong or something. So I would go into the room, I'd pray first, and I'd go into the room and I would walk up, very matter of fact, and I'd go, come on, may or may not touch their shoulder and say, come on, let's go. And I would literally steer them out. But I used intuition and but I'd be very, because like when you grow up in violence, you become very hyper vigilant and you're able to read energy.
Yep.
And so I feel like that has to be part of why you're good at what you do, is that I can like sense it. But I'm not gonna lie, like while I'm doing that, I act like I'm okay.
Oh, it's scary.
But there's inside this little 8-year-old going, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
Can we not be doing this today?
Yep.
And why don't we make enough money that we have security guards?
Right.
We need a security guard.
What is happening? Yeah, so I get that too. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and I've told the girls, like, there's times when let's leave the door open.
Yeah.
I don't know what this guy's going to do. So you got to pay. Girls too. Yeah. Like I remember the first class that I took. Because I wasn't thinking. So this first class that I taught, I'm like, these girls are so cool. And I'm like, wait a minute though. Wait, one of them ran over her husband, the other one, I'm like, come on now. This is not okay. Like, what if they want to do something to me? I'm the only one sitting here. What's going to happen? So yeah, there's times when I'm just like, oh my God, I'm shaking in my boots. But you can't let people know that. So I just kind of filter it out. There's only been 2 people that I've really had to turn away because of that.
Okay.
Where I'm just like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing but trouble. And I knew it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Sometimes I also have to pay attention to whether or not I sincerely feel like they're reachable or not. Like whether or not they are they're so running on what they're running on that like I can't make that connection. They're just
you can't
saying whatever, doing whatever, and then I have to call the police. I have to call somebody to come take them and help me because, they're threatening me. And honestly, if they're escalating like that, I can call the police and tell them, hey, this person's threatening.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so, for all the people that do go to you, and at first they may think that, oh my God, why is this happening to me? And this is so inconvenient and embarrassing and to get into trouble. But there's a moment where they can have a pivot, when they can, maybe they really need help and they would never have asked for help otherwise. Or maybe like me, sometimes I need something to smack me in the face for me to go, oh, kidding.
Right.
I shouldn't be doing that?
Right.
Oh, my bad. Because, I grew up in a very, very violent house. And, I mean, for me, I've heard worse, but I also, that was good. That was bad enough for me.
Yeah.
And, holes punched in walls, my door hanging off its hinges, never a feeling like I was safe, believing I was going to die in that childhood, the beatings, the neglect, and all this stuff, the anger, the hostility, the silence, the judgments, the projections, the gaslighting, it was also just and I know, this is what happens when I see people who are really they have a lot of anger, they have a lot of survivor mode intact, they have a lot of that stuff going on. I go, okay, I see you, I see that you are suffering too. I know, I'm not above.
Right.
I may not punch holes in walls these days, but I'm the person who has punched a wall.
Right.
I'm the person who would pin somebody against a wall and say, you know who you're messing with? Whenever I see somebody that's going through something like that and they're causing a lot of problems for other people, they're so escalated.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, I used to feel so bad calling the police if somebody, because I was oh no, I don't want them to have to but maybe that's just
if it
what
goes
they needed.
there though. And then there are some people who I know need their own time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there will be people where I'll say, you know what, you're not a good fit in the group, but I'll take you on myself. And so that way they still get what they need. And there are people who will turn around after all of that and say, you know what, it's you're right. If I hadn't calmed down or if you hadn't brought me in and those kind of things hadn't happened, who knows where I would be. And so for that, I think that's why I keep doing this.
Yeah.
Really, for the worst ones.
Yeah.
That's why I keep
And
doing
the people
it, because
who
they feel like you can reach them.
The people who are also grateful,
Yeah.
the people who have, they recognize, there's something about going and spending time in jail too, where initially a person could end up feeling still self-righteous and thinking, I don't belong here, why am I doing this, stuff like that, until they get to a place where they're and yet I'm here.
Right.
There possibly could be something that I should not be doing, and yet
or at least do differently.
it happened. So why did it happen, and what can I do differently? And people come with the court card to the meetings at the meeting space, and when I know that they're on court card, I give them court card, I explain them the whole process. So we give copies of court cards for people to fill out.
Okay.
And I teach them the process, and I tell them what to expect, and then I say, your life is your life. Don't sleep through this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If you're here, make the most of it.
Yeah.
And there's so many, obviously there's something to learn.
Right.
I would say that. I can't say you're an alcoholic or a drug addict,
Right.
but there's so much you can learn here that if you're here, be here.
Right.
Be here. You're here anyway.
Take advantage of the opportunity as it's presented.
And I've had people so many times after thank me, because their attitude was different about it, because they could have easily just gone in I'm embarrassed, I'm in the corner,
Right.
I shouldn't be here, blah, 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 and yet And because I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, I've had stuff happen in my life, I've been in trouble, I've had all kinds of, but I could say to somebody, hey, listen, you know, I had to go and heal and have had to heal. And they go, really? You know, how much time have you had off of, you know, this substance or whatever? And then I would tell them and they'd be like,
yeah.
you know, and they'd be like, honestly, it gets better and better, you know, and so whatever. But, you know, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for what you do, and I'm grateful to have met you and to have been able to talk about some of this. I love this topic.
Me too.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
I love you too.
And we're going to do something eventually at the meeting space. We'll have a workshop or something on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, well, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. You can go to themeetingspace.com. On themeetingspace.com, we have a list of all the different platforms that the show is now on, and Spotify, on iHeartRadio, everything. And then if you want to be on a future episode, then click on the intake form or contact us through the contact form and fill that out and let me know what it is that you're thinking of doing, and that's it. So,
all right.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me. That was awesome.